Hello and g'day. Today I'm going to show you how to make the steampunk paper beads. This is part 3 of a 3-video series on how to make these steampunk paper beads. If you've missed video 1, you might like to go and watch that so you know how to make these blank beads. I'm using video chapters as markers in these videos. Now, video chapters will take you to each section of the video that you need to know about. So just say you want to make a certain bead, video chapters will show up on the bar here. So you just slide across, and when you find the part that you want to know about, it'll have a label on it, and then you just go to that chapter. So let's get started. I've used heaps of different clock parts to make this one, and I've twisted some wire around it. The reason I've done the wire twisting is because it's very popular. A lot of people use jewelry wire or craft wire and twist around beads, etc. So I thought I'll do a demo using the twisted wire. What I've used, if you don't have any craft wire, I've used the picture hanging wire. So it just comes in a roll, just pull it out of the packet. To cut this, you just need hubby's pliers. You do need the E6000 for this because it needs a bit of oomph to glue this down. So I just glued it at the top here and put some clock parts over the top, and then I wrapped it around and wrapped it more at the bottom to give it something to finish, and I glued it at the bottom as well. So that's that piece done with the wire, and then I got a heap of little clock parts, and you just glue them randomly all over to how you like them and where they fit. This is a spacer. This is designed to go between beads for jewelry making, but I'm going to use it for my cap at the top. So I've got my eyelet pin. I've put a black bead on it, and I'm putting that there so that finishes off the top of the cap. So if you were jewelry making, you would put another bead here. That's how that's designed to work. So let's glue that one into place first. And I'm going to have that hanging off the bottom. And what I've done is I've glued 2 clock faces together. So I've got a front and a back because they're going to be my dangly. So that's my charm. So I'll snip this one off. I'm going to use the E6000. Now we're going to fill the end of the bead with glue, making sure you're pushing it down inside. Don't put too much because it will spill out and make a mess. So I need to put a little bit of glue here because I'm going to glue these 2 pieces together. And that's just to sit that there. Then I'll whack a little bit more glue around here, around the bottom of this bead. And that's so that it sits right on top and stays there. Anything that comes out here, I know I can clean up, and I'll just clean that up while it's wet. Now to put the bottom piece in, we'll do the same as the top. I'm gluing in this little cog. It's from a watch, and then I'm going to put the eyelet post in, just the same as I did at the top. And that way I'll be able to hang my little clock face off the bottom. Now make sure you leave this 100% to dry before you hang your charm off the bottom, or it'll just pull that pin straight out. Now I'll have to talk you through how I coloured this bead because I messed up on the video. So when all of the clock parts, all of the glue on the top and the bottom are 100% dry, I covered the whole piece with this gesso primer. Now it's just a white. You can use black primer if you have it, so you can get this gesso in black. Colour your whole piece just with a little fine brush and get down in all of the little nooks and crannies. We don't want drips of paint everywhere or primer. Then let that dry. Put it on a skewer and pop it in your styrofoam and let that dry. Then when the gesso is dry, come back with some black acrylic paint if you're using white primer and colour your whole piece black. If you're using black gesso, you can skip this step and go over it, the whole piece with black. So you can see I've used a black base. Then when that is 100% dry, just get this is a metallic rust paint, and it's an acrylic paint, and it's absolutely beautiful and it's so lovely to use. And I dry brushed that on. Wiped off the paint on my paper and just give it a hit and miss. So you can see that I haven't gone overboard with this metallic rust paint. I've just given it a hit and miss here where I wanted to highlight. I put a bit more, but there's still a lot of black showing. And just put it everywhere you want. If you haven't got any rust coloured paint, just use rub and buff and just keep building it up in small amounts. You don't want the gold to be very strong. But that looks pretty effective, and it's a pretty common way to colour up your steampunk items. We'll now move on to the next bead. It's time to make the mechanical butterfly. This bead is made from the little short cone bead. So it's flat one end and coned at the other end. You can cone at this end if you like, if you want to have, more of a head shape for your butterfly. But I'm going to make the head more, unrealistic, more mechanical. So I'm going to use a spacer bead for the head. What I've done is I've cut out my wings. Now I'm going to give you the template for the wings. So you need some black cardstock, maybe 140 to 160. It's not that heavy. So I need 3 for that side and 3 for that side. And all I've done is glue the 3 together to make it nice and thick. Now I've cut these out using my scanner cut machine, so they're very precise. If you want to cut your wings out using one thicker piece of cardboard, do that. Just use a cereal box and paint them black. That will work. So just use the pattern that I've provided for that. For the body here, this little thing here is another jewellery finding. I've got gold and silver, and I've just used alcohol inks and I've painted it black. I'll also put a template in there for paper if you haven't got any of these and can't get them, so you can make a paper one. These are grub screws. They've got an eyelet at the end, and we're going to use that to secure the wings, and we're also going to use it for the top to be able to hang this little latch off. It's not going to come apart. It's quite robust. It's not a fragile bead. I've coloured these with alcohol ink as well, and this one. That's the natural colour of the spacer bead, and I've coloured it with alcohol ink, and the same with those. Get your art glitter glue or any glue that's not too watery. Just don't want anything that's a water-based glue. Just glue these wings together. I'm using 3 layers just to give a bit of sturdiness to the wings, because I don't want these to be a flimsy bead. You don't want it to fall apart. So use something that's going to hold. So just put these 3 layers together. When you use the scan and cut, everything lines up perfectly. You can even give them a little roll if you've got a brayer. If not, just pat them down. And then I'm putting my lines, the veins of the mechanical wing, using a string. Now I'm going to draw a line with my glue from this corner point to the end of the wing. So I'll go from the corner point. This glue will dry clear. And we'll get some string. I'm going to take a bit of that glue off because it's just going to squash out everywhere. And just hold it tight from corner to the edge of the wing and cut it off longer than you need it, just for now, just till we're getting it all laid down. Then put that piece over the top and do the same on that piece. So we're crossing it over here at the point. Right, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to lay these not on top of each other at the corner of the wing here. There's a corner. And I'm going to just turn it into a V. I'm just going to push everything together there so it turns into a nice neat V there. I'll turn that over. This glue dries really quick, and just cut all those off. We don't need them there now. Then come back again with my fingernails and push them together to form a nice neat V. Now you can cut those ends off as close as you want to the end of the wings. Like I have on this one, they're flush with the end of the wing. This one here I'm going to leave a little bit longer. You can leave them really long if you want them to be very mystical like this one, or you can cut them off and just have them that little bit hanging over. Okay, and do the same on the other side. So I'll do that and I'll be back. The wings are ready to put the rivets on. So we'll use the texture paste for that. So you just need a little bit of texture paste and some water. So I'm just going to make some little dots using the texture paste. And I've got a stylus here, which is just this little ball. This guy's got a ball at the end. And I'm going to thin it down just a tiny bit with that water. If it's too thick, when I tap it on, it's just going to pull it straight back off. If it's too thin, when I put it on the wings, they'll flatten out. So you just want little tiny raised dots. So just get some of the texture paste on the ball and then just tap it just a little dot and leave a little raised dot beside your string. Turn it around the other side, load it up. You need to have plenty on here or it just won't leave behind. And then match it to the other side and just put a little dot beside it. You don't need many, you just need to just pretend that you've got some rivets going on. So you do need to find something else to do in between making these little beads. Once that's dry, do the other side. While I'm waiting for those to dry, I'll prepare my body for the wings. So I'm going to put some grub screws in the sides, and these are going to hold my wings. So I've got 2 grub screws ready. I'm going to use the same method that I used for this one here to put in the little screws. Just work out where I want it. Again, I don't want to push my paper too hard. I'm just turning this around in a circle just to make a pilot hole without flattening my bead. It is paper, it will flatten. So I'm just making a tiny pilot hole to start me off. Then I'm going to get that in there and screw it in. And you just screw it by hand. Take your time, hold your bead carefully so that you don't pull it out of shape. And just keep screwing it in. Leave it hanging out a little bit. Then come across to the other side, turn it around, eyeball it where it needs to be and match that up to the other side. And make another pilot hole. And if it's a little bit uneven, I wouldn't worry about it, but if it's a lot uneven, it will show. All right, now if they're going to hit each other in the middle, that's when you know you need to stop. But that's not happened for me. I've got something to hold my wings on. Can just bend them ever so slightly to the front because that's how we want our wings to be. Not dead straight that way. Ever so slightly leaning towards the front. We need to get his antennas ready. And I used an eye pin. Now to find these, search online for jewellery findings and you'll find all of these sorts of little bits and pieces. So let's make the antennas using this. If you can't find any of this and you haven't got any whatsoever, you could make your antennas using string. Double that in there in your texture paste and see now you've got your little ends. You could use, you know, those little flower arrangement, the stamens that you use for floral arrangement. Now I'm going to work out how long I want my antennas. So roughly that long and that long again. And then I need to make another eyelet this end. So I'm just going to snip that off. I'll put how long these are in the instructions so you can see exactly how I've made mine. That's about 4 centimetres. I'm going to just very quickly make another eyelet in the end to match the other end. Right, I need them to bend the right way. So we just bend them in the centre up that way. If one's a bit longer, it will show. So you just need to make sure it is in the centre. Get your pliers, squish them together at the bottom here because I'm going to put them under the little trim here. So I don't want them too wide. Train one to go out one way and one to go out the other way. Okay, now we'll glue that in place. And I'm going to use the E6000 again for that. There's really no quick way to show you how to do this. It's not a quick tutorial. So I'm just putting a generous amount of glue, not over gluing, on here. I'll work out where I want him to be. Right now I'll put some glue underneath this piece. Now the tail is going to hang over the bottom here, so I'm not putting any glue at the very bottom, just along the top part. Don't over glue. If you over glue, it will squish out everywhere. And just lay that gently on top. Just enough to hang that little tail over the bottom. And we're going to recolour this little piece to make it look like that at the end. Now I'm not squashing it down too hard, and because it's E6000 it stays wet for a long time, and if you keep pressing it, all it'll do is squash the glue out. It behaves totally different to your fabric glue. If you keep squashing it, see here, I can still keep moving that. It will keep moving, so don't touch it. So let's go ahead and put his little head on, and then I can wait for all of that to dry before I continue on with the wings. I need this grub screw to go in the top like that, and then that goes in the top head here. I'm being very careful not to move anything that I've already set up in here. So I'm going to put some glue down in the top of the bead, push it down into that hole. Like I said, my glue is really drying a little bit fast. Try and push that down, and I don't mind that because it works. It's working okay for me. And I'm going to put this spacer on an angle so the corner will face the front of the body of the butterfly. I'm not making it square. Okay, so the corner faces the front. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the screw so that that grabs when I push it down into the top of that spacer. Any that squishes out, I'll clean it up. That needs to be quite secure, so you do need to use a really good glue for this job. So I've got that facing the right way. I'll be back when that's dry. These are now dry. I've gone ahead and I've done one side. I'm using the black, and I've just coloured in over the top of all the little glued up rivets. Right, so that's that side done. I've done that side. So all you do is colour over the top. You really do have to wait for this to be properly dry to do it. Now I'm going to trim off one side of it. So I've got it on two sides. I'm going to trim one side back so that it's only longer on one side. So we'll make sure we've got a left and a right, and we'll trim this one here to match. So I'm just going to cut it off to the end, off to the end, and off to the end. Then colour those straggly bits so that they're black. Now we're ready to glue our wings on. So we're going to glue them like that so that the top part of the wing becomes a feature. And that makes our mechanical butterfly look more like a butterfly. I've got two golds here. I've got an antique gold and I've got a European gold. This one here's the European gold. This one's more of a gold. It's like really gold. So if you like that really real gold look, that's the one. That's the difference between the two. It's just more goldier. I'll buff that on. See how it's picking up the rivets and a tiny little bit of the background. You don't need a lot of it. See why it's called gold finger. And you need those rivets to be raised enough to pick this gold colour up. Now it takes to the metal really, really well. So if I put some here on his body and some here, some on the top and his little antennas, and some on his makeshift head and around the body as well. And it'll pick up all these staggered lines on the bead itself. Don't go overboard with this stuff. Just add it if you need it. If you keep going, you might think, oh no, I've put too much. So that is the Rub and Buff European gold, and this is Gold Finger Antique Gold. I'm going to fill this little grub hole here at the back because that's where I want the wings to add on to from the back. Same on this side. If your glue is a little bit runnier, you might have to just let it go off a little bit first. And now we can just push these into place. They will stay on. They just need to wait a little while. Don't touch it, leave it to dry. So, and the glue has filled those holes. And now that's finished. Once I put on my little chain holder, wherever it is, this little fella here, that's finished. Now I'm not going to put that on just yet. I'm just going to leave that to dry properly so I don't move my wings and change them too much. But I really love this little mechanical butterfly. He's so cute. Looks as good from the back as it does the front. Even where the paper ends there, have you seen that where it ends, it all adds to the steampunk look. You're not setting concrete just to make these as a steampunk paper bead. You can make these in any style of bead you like. They would look absolutely beautiful as a soft paper rose style bead hanging on a tassel on a very lacy junk journal. So just use the blanks and decorate them in any style you want. They look absolutely beautiful. So this is the end of part 3. I know you'll love making these steampunk paper beads. I'm Donna, and bye for now.